If someone handed you a crystal ball and said, you can see many of the health challenges you may face in your lifetime, would you peek? If so, would you take action to prevent what you saw? We all know crystal balls can't foresee the future. However, through science and medical advancements, we can see potential threats, making it possible to have a hand in determining our future.
Hi, my name is Gina Burris, and I am a proud previvor. This means, although I was never diagnosed with cancer, I found out that I was at a very high risk for developing breast or ovarian cancer in my lifetime. Once I was armed with that information, I made the choice to take action.
But how did I end up here? It's an interesting story, actually. My husband and I decided to take the 23andMe test before the pandemic. We wanted to see if my gypsy tendencies and his love for spicy food and tequila are rooted from within our ancestors. Little did I know, the test results would change our lives forever. While on vacation, I received the alert notifying me that my results were in. As I opened the health predisposition section, the following words practically jumped off the screen and punched me in the face. Gina, you have a greatly increased risk of developing breast and ovarian cancer. First thought was, certainly this is wrong. This cannot be my result. I do not have a family history of breast or ovarian cancer. In that moment, that very long, surreal blip of time, that second where I could have reached down from my chair and drawn a literal and figurative line in the sand, my life would be forever divided in two. From this moment on, I would become Gina before knowing she carried the BRCA1 mutation and Gina after. With the recommendation of 23andMe, I consulted with genetic specialists. First, it was required I confirm the mutation with a blood test. Once the results were in, we met again and they affirmed many facts I had found through hours and hours of research. Some of the notable facts are, an average woman has a 10 to 12% chance of developing breast cancer in her lifetime, while a BRCA1 carrier has up to a 72% chance of developing it before the age of 70. Women with the same mutation have up to a 44% chance of developing ovarian cancer compared to a 1% chance in those without a mutation. Also, people of Ashkenazi Jewish descent have a high probability of carrying a BRCA mutation. About 1 in 400 people in the general population will carry a BRCA mutation, but 1 in 40 people of Ashkenazi Jewish descent will carry one of the variants. There is also a strong genetic component to these mutations. Children have a 50-50 chance of inheriting the mutation from a parent. Unfortunately, we know the odds were not in my son's favor, as we discovered he too carries the BRCA1 mutation. As a mother, this was harder than learning I carried it myself. Thankfully, he is armed with the knowledge and will be able to begin scans and checks at an earlier age than others. As my son's status proves, men can be BRCA carriers. They can also get breast cancer. The average male has a 0.1% chance of developing the disease in their lifetime, but a male BRCA carrier has an increased 7 to 8% chance of developing it at some point in their life.
During the conversation with my genetics team, we reviewed 4 possible courses of action that I could take. I could bury my head in the sand, ignore all the stats, let life play out the way that it was going to play out, and hope and pray the cancer didn't find its way into my universe. I could increase screenings. This meant that I would have my annual mammogram, followed 6 months later by a breast MRI. If the doctors found anything suspicious, then they would go ahead and do a biopsy, and that would let them and I know if cancer had actually started to develop. The third option that I had was to consider taking a medication. This particular medication would stop the production of estrogen in my body, and then if any tumor needed estrogen to grow, then it wouldn't be able to. Or I could opt to have preventative surgeries. Even though that was a radical choice, that was the choice that I made.
Before I had the chance to speak to the genetic team, I spoke with a dear friend who has been a mammographer for over 20 years. Her message was clear. If I would worry and stress over this mutation, especially right before every scan, I should just get them off. I was initially taken aback, but between her advice and the visit with the genetics, I made the decision to take the preventive path. Even though I had made my decision, Dealing with uncertainties and COVID through isolation was extremely challenging and scary. But I am blessed with an incredibly supportive tribe of family members and friends who stood behind the decisions I was making. I also opted to speak with a therapist versed in cancer treatments. We tackled some things that were weighing quite heavy on me. The sessions helped me in my resolve, and I walked away with many insights. One insight was about the term previvor. This new term, previvor, a term I was very uncomfortable with, was actually something good. It meant a new player had shown up in this game against cancer.
Now there was an offensive player and not just a defensive one. As the world continues to work toward a cure, survivors and previvors can now create a decent team against the formidable foe known as cancer. Sometimes, though, I couldn't escape when my mind would start second-guessing my decision to have a preventative double mastectomy. Was I doing the right thing? Is it stupid to go through with this surgery? I don't have cancer, and even though the risk is high, it doesn't mean I am for certain going to get it. Thankfully, I had a conversation with a physician during my pre-op that calmed my nerves and helped solidify my choice. After asking about my family history and realizing that I had found out about my genetic mutation through a 23andMe test, he stopped as he was walking out the door that day, looked at my husband and I, and said, "That test saved your life." In that moment, all hesitation disappeared. I knew that I was doing the right thing for myself and my family.
The week prior to surgery, my family and friends continued to boost my confidence and support my decision. They made me believe I would be able to surpass this challenge by taking charge of my life. It was because of their unconditional support that I was able to reaffirm how important it is to surround yourself with people who will stand by you in all of the challenges you will face. April 2nd, 2021 finally arrived. The sun rose early in the morning, and my husband and I walked hand in hand to the hospital. The preparations were swift and painless, and before I knew it, I was being wheeled back for the moment I had waited for, cried over, and stressed about for a very long time. The doctors weren't able to say exactly what would happen, as they would have to wait until the breast tissue was removed to see if I was a candidate for direct-to-implant reconstruction. When I awoke from the anesthesia-induced fog, there were two things that stood out in my mind. One was extreme satisfaction, as they were able to do the reconstruction direct to implants, and the other was the immense weight that had been lifted from my shoulders. For so long, the thought of, what if today is the day my cells decide to revolt and breast cancer starts to form, plagued me. But waking up knowing I never had to think about that again was a total win. I may not have had to fight cancer, but that day, I knew I had beat it to the punch. Later that evening, I offered up a prayer filled with gratitude and a promise. I will be forever grateful I was given the opportunity to get ahead of and prevent breast and ovarian cancer. This has in no way been an easy road, and though I chose to have a total hysterectomy and bilateral mastectomy, the threat of cancer alone has caused me to lose a lot. However, being able to be proactive instead of reactive when it came to my health is a gift I will never take for granted. As for the promise I made, I will do whatever I can to help raise awareness of what it means to be a BRCA-positive mutant. I will stand on any platform, big or small, and remind anyone who will listen how important it is to be aware of their bodies and to encourage husbands, partners, and lovers to become supportive and knowledgeable as well. I will strive to be part of changing the popular Save the Tatas mantra to a narrative that challenges us to forget the tatas and save the frickin' woman. To any woman that has to hear someone say it's just a boob job, I will rally at her side and encourage her to release the guilt, and I will remind her that no one has ever told someone who faces losing a leg it is just a leg job.
Early detection is the best way to discover and treat this disease. I vow to spend the rest of my life educating whomever I can that the BRCA gene is a threat, that it is prevalent amongst those of Ashkenazi Jewish descent. It does not only affect women, men can and do carry it. Males can also get breast cancer, and the mutation increases the risk of other cancers in both men and women. I will also strive to be a friend and mentor to anyone who learns they too have a genetic mutation or have received the scary news that cancer has found its way into their world. Thank you for listening.